So I was finishing up my secondary education, as I've just found out.
Just keep this phrase in your mind. There is no ceiling.
One thing that it aims to do is try and set you up for careers later in the future.
Replacing F1 in schools with like a job after you finish, it seems like a great idea for me. Actually, I did that.
Right, there is you can have peaked, you can peak again.
Hello, welcome to this episode of Off the Track. I'm Michael Walker, I was part of Infinitude and Precision Racing. Joining me today is Ben Galvin.
Hello.
And Ben, introduce yourself. Come on.
Sorry. Hi, my name's Ben Galvin. I was from Team Ascension during the 2019 World Finals.
And also Matthew Fleming.
Hello. I was part of Invisity at the 2017 World Finals.
Brilliant. And so we're here today to talk about what's next, what to do when you've maybe done it all in the competition. I don't know, maybe you've won, maybe you've come a place that wasn't first. And you're looking and saying to yourself, well, what am I going to do now? Guys, what do we think? What do we think people should be doing?
Well, there's a number of things really that you can do after the competition. Obviously, as competitions, one thing that it aims to do is try and set you up for careers later in the future. That's pretty prevalent, especially in the Australian competition, where it introduced a regulation relating to careers in Defence Force. It's really trying to get you figure out, you know, exactly our question, what you want to do. I don't know about you guys, whether we all pursued careers relating to F1 schools afterwards. Obviously, we're each at different stages out of the competition.
I suppose of the off-the-track team, I'm the one who's been out of the competition the longest, having competed in 2015. And when it came to jobs, I didn't go straight into the defense industry like F1 in schools would have liked. I went into IT to begin with, because my role in Precision and Infinitude was quite a technical one. And then I decided that wasn't for me, and ended up starting a teaching degree, which I think 2 years into at this point, and it's going really well. So I'll be teaching F1 in schools and STEM subjects to students, and I think that's a brilliant outcome. I don't think everyone's going to get that outcome out of the competition. It's not a competition that produces teachers as such. But yeah, Matthew, where did you go after the comp?
Yep, so after the comp, so we did the Worlds when I was in year 11. So after year 11, obviously did year 12. And after year 12 is when I started my web design business. So that's what I've been doing ever since. It's quite there's a lot of transferable skills there from F1 in schools, marketing and all the enterprise stuff. I mean, yeah, it's just myself. So I've got to do the marketing, the administration, the bookkeeping, accounting, all that. You got to do everything, and F1 in schools does prepare you for that.
Yeah, and I suppose you did web development as part of F1, didn't you, for your team?
Yeah, I did that as well. Yeah, I'm not sure how common that is. Most people probably just do something in Wix or something, but yeah, I'd learned like web design more like HTML and things before F1 in schools. But then when I did the competition, I actually started looking into different kinds of websites, just teams and things like that, and actually just started working out how to actually design a website. And it's mostly just taking inspiration from different places, And then I found out, I like doing this. And this is, something that can be done. It's pretty simple once you learn how to do it. And it's, you can easily replicate it. And that's good business.
Yeah, absolutely. And I suppose that's really a good overview of what you can expect once you've left school, and what you can expect on a career type basis. But for those, we're recording this about a week after the end of the World Finals. For those who have finished the World Finals and have achieved above and beyond what they expected, or whether they've just achieved not quite what they wanted, where to them for now? Where to for them now? Immediately after the competition, Ben?
Yeah, well, I suppose immediately after my competition in 2019, I was like Matthew, I was in year 11. So I was finishing up my studies within tertiary education.
Secondary education.
Secondary, tertiary's university, isn't it?
That's the one. Yeah.
So I was finishing up my secondary education, as I've just found out. And I completed my HSC the year after. I didn't too crash up my HSC. I will be honest, I kind of blew off high school after F1 schools, as
which we don't recommend.
I don't not recommend at all. I sort of went through an odd period where I did hit that what next, and I didn't really do anything with the question. I didn't really know where I wanted to go. I just knew wanted to do some form of university degree, which led me to being accepted on an early offer into University for Computer Systems Engineering, which I completed for 1 year, and then switched to a Bachelor of Mechanical Engineering, which I'm still studying at the moment.
And I think I should just take a second to explain to the viewers who are not in Australia, of which we have quite a few now. The HSC is similar to what you'd expect to get after your GCSEs and A-levels. HSC is similar to GCSEs, and in Australia we also have a thing called ATAR, which is like a university score, which I believe is what you get after you do like A-levels in the UK. In America, an ATAR is similar to your SAT score, and your HSC or SACE or whatever certificate we talk about here in Australia is similar to your high school diploma. And when we talk about year 11 and year 12 and year 10 is usually 15, 16, and year 11, 12 are the last 2 years of high school. They're not completely compulsory. And so they're similar to your A-level years in the UK. And they're your I believe it's your junior and senior year of high school in America, but we'd have to ask Eleanor on that one. So, Matt, how did you find it immediately after the competition? Did you guys place where you wanted at Worlds, or?
Not really. I mean, I think every team wants to be world champions.
Yeah.
But
were you disappointed by that?
We weren't. It was about as expected. Like, we knew we weren't going to be. Like, from the beginning, we're going to be world champions. By the end, it's like, it was probably about where we expected. So it's I don't know. I think 14th in the world is still 14th in the world. So I wasn't really too disappointed. But what we didn't actually expect was getting an award. So kind of a bonus there. We got the marketing and sponsorship award. So not
big
too
achievement.
Disappointing, but yeah.
And I think that's something that is key. Is if you're a team that didn't place where you wanted, but you won an award, especially if that was an award that is awarded not based on points, but based on what the judges think, which is actually more awards than you think. that's an achievement in and of itself. And even if you didn't win an award, even if you placed, I don't know, top 10, top 15, top 20, it's an achievement. Like you've achieved something.
Even if you got to
Worlds,
Worlds,
you've achieved something. And yeah, so getting to Worlds is a big achievement. And I think the question of what next needs to be, my advice would be to focus on your studies. I've competed when I was in year 10. So I competed the year before Matt and Ben in terms of my schooling career. And so I had another 2 years to go and look and say, what do I want to do? And for me, I jumped straight into another STEM competition. I did Subs in Schools, which is a program in Australia, which is similar to F1 in Schools in the enterprise aspect, but the engineering aspect is that you design and build a working underwater submarine, miniature submarine, I should say. It's about 1 meter long. And we saw some success in that. We got second nationally, which I was very proud of. But I think that was me trying to fill a void that F1 in Schools had left. And I think when it got to year 12, which was my final year of schooling, I just figured that I had to replace that void with schooling. And I think don't underestimate how much you can get out of the topics you have at school, because by the time you get to year 11 and 12, you have a lot of elective subjects that you can do that you'll enjoy. I don't know, guys, what did you think of throwing yourself into your schooling?
Well, I think that's good, but I think really what you need to do is you just need to fill the void with something that will either advance you in life in some way, like, you know, money is obviously one, but also getting a new skill. Basically, yeah, you just need to fill that work void, because, you know, work is important to your psychology. You need to be sort of doing that. You can't just, and you'll know that once you go out of F1 in Schools and you lose that, you suddenly sort of almost lose that productive, mindset. I'm trying to find a word there.
Yeah,
mindset.
I think
guess
that's actually a really good point you've hit on there, is that replacing F1 in Schools with like a job after you finish, it seems like a great idea for me. Actually, I did that. I started working at McDonald's after F1 in Schools, and it was a very rewarding experience. I learned so much, and it's made it so much easier to move into the workplace after high school, having worked there during high school, if that makes sense. Ben?
Yeah, I guess for me it was a bit different. I didn't actually start working until after high school, because I had quite a bit of a workload when it came to my HSC year. But in order to fill that void of F1 Schools, I found having a hobby, just something that I could turn to towards the side, was it's probably one of the most rewarding things that I had at the time. I guess I sort of propelled myself into an awfully expensive hobby of Lego. Just as an example, all the guys in Off the Track would know that I spent a ridiculous amount of money on the Lego Millennium Falcon, which was a sort of a long time goal for me. I think working towards that sort of helped as well. And also I sort of maintained, my skills within graphic design as well. I never really stopped doing graphic design after the competition. And through that, I've sort of carved a career for myself, almost in a way, to the point where I've recently designed a car for a real life motorsport, which was probably one of the most rewarding things I've done post competition as well.
I think that's a really good point about honing your keeping those skills that you've learned during the competition sharp and continuing to do the same things. If you enjoyed what you did in the competition, you can make that into a hobby. Part of that hobby could be passing that on to other students in your school. I think the reason that my school had been so successful, we've had two World Finals teams, and I think we've placed like 5 in total at Worlds in the past decade or so. I think the reason that my high school was so successful is that we had every generation passing on the knowledge to the next. And schools like St. Bede's, which was the other half of Infinitude, and Ben, your high school didn't have many teams before you, did they?
We sort of had a very localized presence. Like we were quite prominent within like the Hunter region, and including the New South Wales State Finals. We had quite a number of state teams. But prior to us, there was only really Revolution Racing, which was the other half of Invisity. So,
yeah. And Matt, did your school have a long history with F1 or?
So yes, sort of. So my teacher at Koichi Murat, before he was at Koichi, he was at Brooks, and he led the Team Pentagliders that won the 2011 World Finals. And then eventually he moved to Koichi, and I guess that was when I was in year 7, and that's basically when it all started up. I joined year 9.
And I think that shows that, you know, the way to the World Finals is paved with a lot of experience and passing that on. So if you've gotten to the World Finals, you should try and pass on that knowledge to the next generation of F1 in school students. I know that I mentored James Gurney from Horizon in graphics design, and he has since very much superseded me in ability. That guy is crazy skilled with graphic design and engineering. And Peter in Infinitude, he and I worked together closely to develop things, and I think without mentoring, these guys would have achieved nationals level. They probably would have achieved worlds level, but I don't think if Horizon hadn't had the legacy of experience from like Luke and James, they might not have placed so high. So I think mentoring is a really good way to get the future students involved and energized, and to keep the competition going at your school. Guys, what do we think about that?
Yeah, absolutely. I think mentoring is one of the most rewarding things you can do for the next generation. Although I never properly mentored a team as such, I have offered like advice to those that have asked. But even like doing off the track as well, I feel has been a great filler for F1 schools. And even on top of that, I'd like to add, it doesn't even have to be a mentoring role within the competition. Even if you judge, have that other side's perspective from when you are competing. I know I think I've judged 4 or 3 competitions total now. And it's been a real eye-opening experience seeing what it's like from the other side of the competition and seeing what the judges go through, and keeping up with the quality of work that's produced from high school students.
And I think from I guess a bit more of a selfish perspective as well, it does keep those skills and that knowledge in your mind to just keep that going, which will be helpful for the future.
Because with things like this, it's kind of a use it or lose it type thing. I know that I had a long hiatus between when I did calculus in high school and when I did calculus in university, and completely lost those skills for integration over that period. Was absolutely incompetent at it when I got to uni.
Calculus is.
Exactly. You see my point? Like, you haven't used those skills, and so you've lost
what it is.
Yeah.
Speak for yourselves.
To an engineering degree. You'll see, now I'm fine with it, but now I am the integration master. No, I'm just kidding. But even then, it applies to all skills. It applies to me using Cinem 4D, which is what I use to render cars. I couldn't sit down right now and just start rendering a car the same quality I used to, because I just don't remember. So it keeps those skills sharp. And I think probably the last thing we want to talk about is that you just need to take some time to relax.
So I'll disagree with that slightly. That's the word you say. I'll disagree with it slightly. Basically, you do want to relax, but you also don't want to lose that productive mindset as well.
Oh, absolutely.
You want to keep that going, because if you lose it, you will feel worse somehow. Even though it sort of feels like relaxing feels better, you will feel worse without that. And if you go too long without it, it's hard to build it back. So just keep that in mind. You should try and just be productive in some way, preferably towards your career aspirations is always a good thing. So let's say you wanted to be a software developer. Go write software, right? Just write whatever, maybe even if it's useful, you can put it up on GitHub or something like that. And that'll be great for a job application as well, right? At the end of the day, if you've just done, 4 years computer science at uni, let's say, so has everyone else. If you've got, actual experience there written out, here's my GitHub, here's my software, this is a software example. You can, whatever your career is, you can show that to an employer and they'll probably like it better. It's an extra.
And that goes for a lot of careers. Graphic designers, I think this is probably one of the most prevalent industries, is that designers have portfolios of work, and software designers, software engineers, computer scientists, all of those people under that umbrella don't generally think about it like that, but they have the ability to create much the same portfolio of work which they can show to an employer and say, well, this is what I've done. And F1 in schools is a great thing to put on your resume when you're in school, when you're in uni, and when you're first starting out. And you can use what you did at that competition and say, well, this is work that I did. If you're applying for a marketing job and you were the marketing manager of your team, you can say, well, I managed $40,000 worth of budget and I directed an ad campaign on Facebook for like $1,000 or something like that, if your team's done something like that. Or I managed to define a marketing scope for a team of 6 people in a competition that has millions of students or something like that. It's a portfolio of work, as Matt said. And I think that's why I said to, when you're relaxing, catch up on the work that you missed from school. It's not going to probably be as productivity inducing as you'd like, but it's something to keep you going if you don't really know what portfolio kind of stuff work you'd like to do. Ben?
And just
you get that.
Sorry, Matt.
Sorry, no, I'll let Ben go.
I guess just building on top of that whole like creating a portfolio for yourself sort of mindset. When I stopped doing F1 in schools, like I said, I hadn't really figured out where I wanted to go. And I wanted to learn a new sort of aspect in design. Design was never really something I wanted to get into, but I just kind of fell into it, sort of like a safety blanket afterwards, where it was a skill that I just trained for the past 3 years. I didn't want to waste it. So I taught myself how to design, cars in video games. I started out on, for all the sim racers out there, Assetto Corsa, not the new one, but the old one that was made in like mid 2000s or something. From there, I progressed on to like iRacing, and you find a clientele afterwards once you develop those skills to the point where you can create a portfolio for yourself. And even just giving yourself the challenge of designing something new, I found was quite an enjoyable experience in challenging myself to do something that hadn't been done.
Matthew, did you have anything to add?
No, sorry, I don't remember, but it wasn't important. But Never mind.
That's okay. I don't think I have anything else to add either. I think Ben's just kind of summed it up brilliantly. I think what we've really covered here today is that you might have the feeling that you've hit the ceiling of achievement during the competition and after, but there's a lot more to life than just F1 in schools. You're still a teenager at the time you're probably listening to this. You're going to do a lot in your 20s and beyond. So, you've got another 60, 70 years left to do great things. So look forward to that, and don't maybe spend too much time dwelling on the past. Anything else, guys?
Just one thing to sort of just keep this phrase in your mind. There is no ceiling. Right? There is you can have peaked, you can peak again. You can keep going. There's no ceiling.
Yeah.
It's a myth.
And on that, I think that's all from us today.